Like I've said before, a lot of the critics over at Rotten Tomatoes, they don't really like horror movies all that much. So today I'm gonna go through how Rotten Tomatoes ranks the entire Alien franchise and whether or not I agree with it. So there are 5 movies in the Alien franchise that have at least a fresh status, which is pretty high. And also, to me, I know a lot of people might disagree with this, but to me, the Alien franchise is one of the most consistent franchises in the horror genre. There's only really one movie in this franchise that I won't go back and rewatch.
Also, next to each movie on the left, I'll put where I rank that movie to the right of it in green.
And just a reminder, this ranking will be sorted by the lowest tomato meter score to the highest tomato meter score. So, all right, how the hell does Rotten Tomatoes rank the Alien franchise? Well, coming in last place at number 9 is going to be Aliens vs. Predator Requiem from 2007. Coming in with a 12% tomato meter score, but a 30% audience score. The critics' consensus for this one is the increased gore and violence over the first Alien vs. Predator can't excuse Requiem's disorientating editing, excessively murky lighting, and lack of new ideas. I mean, of course, I would agree with the murky lighting, without a doubt. This is one of the darkest movies you will ever see in your entire life, and there is a shit ton of gore in this movie, without a doubt. But you know what we like to do, because this movie's in last place? We like to read a couple critic reviews as well. So the first critic said that Requiem was fresh, and they said, occasionally, the filmmakers reveal a cheeky willingness to upend genre conventions, particularly when bending the rules regarding who lives and who dies in this sort of pick. Oh yeah, that's one thing that this movie does which catches me off guard. They are willing to kill anybody. I mean, a kid, it's a chest burster scene in this movie. There's a scene where like an entire wing of women who are in the process of giving birth all get slaughtered. There's also a whole nother scene where like basically the entire town gets bombed. And you're like, wait, they just went there. Okay, I'm actually kind of surprised by that. So yeah, that is very true. The next critic said this movie was rotten, like a lot of critics do. They gave this movie a 1 out of 4. And they said Aliens vs. Predator Requiem is literally shrouded in darkness. Yeah, true. And the only explicable reason for this pitch black visual scheme is that the filmmakers understood it was better if no one could see the shit that they were filming. You know, maybe the movie is so dark, and maybe we're just missing out on a cinematic masterpiece. Maybe, you know what I mean? Who knows, right? But yeah, most people would agree with the critic right there. But there's a lot of things in this movie I actually enjoy. You guys have heard me say this before. With movies, a lot of it comes down to just whether or not I have fun with the movie. Yes, this movie's from 2007. Yes, I have a lot of nostalgia for that era, the bad CGI, the action. But, I mean, movies from this era, especially when they have a lot of violence, they kind of bring me back. So yeah, I mean, Requiem, this is an interesting one. I mean, one of the funny things about this movie is it was released on Christmas Day. So it's kind of like, okay, ho, 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 here's a little thing to put you in the Christmas spirit. You can see some kids and some pregnant ladies get murdered, plus a whole town, right? And really, when it comes to this movie, just this idea of aliens, you know, xenomorphs being released on like an average American town in Colorado, that's where this takes place, and just wrecking shit in a town of normal people. I mean, that's an idea that I can get behind. That's a pretty entertaining idea to me, in a fun kind of schlocky sort of a way, right? But I can have some fun with that, definitely. But yeah, like I mentioned earlier, I mean, this movie, if you like carnage, you are gonna get it in this movie. There are a ton of kills. Basically, the last, like 45 minutes of the movie is just killing constantly. And yeah, it sucks that it's so dark because you don't really get to see a lot of the kills, because not only is the movie just dark in general, but a lot of the stuff is also at night under the rain and everything like that. So that kind of sucks. as well. I also think in this movie, it's funny when they add that little angle of like, don't trust your government, which, you know, even all these years later, you know, is still pretty true in a lot of ways, right? Now, with Requiem, of course, like, if you're some, you know, highbrow film connoisseur in a way, you're going to hate this movie. And I'm not saying if you hate this movie and you're not highbrow, that you don't have a right to hate this movie. I'm just saying, if you fit into that category, you are going to hate this movie. But if you're just kind of an average dipshit like me, who likes some carnage, some kills in his movies, and has a, you know, a nostalgia for this era, then there's definitely going to be some things here that you like. And there's a lot of things in this movie that I have a good time with. So there you go. Requiem coming in last place at number 9, according to Rotten Tomatoes. Do I agree? I actually do not agree. This is going to surprise some people, but Requiem is actually number 6 in the franchise for me. I have some fun with it. It just has a lot of replayability for just strictly the gore and nostalgia for me. So there you go. I disagree with it being number 9 in the franchise. All right, up next at number 8 is going to be Alien vs. Predator from 2004, coming in with a 22% tomato meter score and a 39% audience score. The critics' consensus is gore without scares and cardboard cutout characters make this clash of monsters a dull sit. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the characters are cardboard cutouts. They don't put really much effort at all into 99% of the characters and making you care about them in any sort of a way. But yeah, I mean, there's also some gore here. Is this movie scary? It has a lot of jump scares. It's not necessarily scary, though, to me. But yeah, all right, Alien vs. Predator at number 8. So this movie's directed by Paul W.S. Anderson, who also directed actually Mortal Kombat, Event Horizon, an incredible 90s sci-fi movie, Soldier, Resident Evil. So you know, at the very least, first of all, this movie's going to look good. And second of all, this movie's going to have kind of a big blockbuster type of feel to it, which it does in a lot of ways. And the movie kind of kicks off in the first half or first quarter of the movie in a way that I like. It's kind of like this treasure hunt in the Arctic, which is a fun concept to me. And it reminds me of some other movies, of course, in the genre that take place in like a cold, unforgiving place, like The Thing prequel. This movie does have, you know, an all-around pretty decent cast. Nobody's really bad in this. It's good to see Lance Henriksen back in the movie. That's cool too. But I will say, like earlier on in the movie when I watch it, I always think to myself, I wish they wouldn't have cut to the Predator so early in the movie, and they would have kind of kept things a little bit more mysterious. Of course, we're going to get aliens versus predators. They're going to show up at some point, but give us a little bit more mystery on which group of, you know, creatures is where. I would have preferred that, I would say. Also, one of the things I always notice with this movie is I don't feel like they treat the Arctic in a realistic way at all. Like, I don't feel like they make it seem like everybody's really cold whatsoever. I mean, the people who go down in the drill, down in the tunnel, you know, they're one thing, but there's a bunch of dudes up in this like abandoned whaling town, and they have essentially no shelter, no fire, no way to really stay warm at all. It's dark, so it's especially cold. The movie just kind of glosses over that. That seems a little bit weird. I feel like they could have leaned into the elements a little bit more, which could have been cool. And also, like, you know, once everybody, the humans and everybody starts to get down into this pyramid, you know, we're starting to continue the treasure hunt kind of a thing. Like, this pyramid down there shifting and moving and collapsing in certain areas is pretty damn horrifying to me. And it has like a very suffocating feeling, without a doubt. I mean, if you've got any sort of claustrophobia and you hate those kind of things, this movie's gonna give you a little bit of that. And I will say, like, one thing I think about when I watch this movie is like, these predators are either the dumbest smart species ever, or they are just really bored. Because of course, like, this plot is like, this pyramid was essentially like a training ground for the predators. They would hatch these xenomorphs and then have like hunting competitions on who could kill the most of them. And of course, that goes south and they end up having to just nuke the place, which is kind of funny. I also think in this movie, like, the action sequences are filmed pretty well. Like, the moments where People are almost getting closed through like a gate or a wall or a door. People are having to jump over like broken bridges, and they're shot in like kind of unique, interesting ways, which makes me kind of like white knuckle it a little bit. I get a little like kind of tense during those moments, which is cool. But yeah, AVP from 2004, of course, like Requiem, some nostalgia there for me. I can have a good time with this. It's a little generic in a lot of ways. Of course, Requiem is too, but yeah, I mean, it's still a pretty good time, definitely. So do I agree with AVP being number 8 according to Rotten Tomatoes? I actually disagree. I have AVP as number 7 in the franchise for me. So, yep, anyways, there you go. Rotten Tomatoes has it as AVP as number 8. Okay, coming up next at number 7 is going to be Alien 3 from 1992 with a 44% tomato meter score and a 46% audience score. The critics' consensus goes Alien 3 takes admirable risks with franchise mythology, but far too few pay off in a thinly scripted sequel whose stylish visuals aren't enough to enliven a lack of genuine thrills. Yeah, and I would agree with a lot of that. I mean, it has like a unique look to the movie without a doubt. Feels very early 90s for sure, and takes some, I guess, swings here and there, but just ends up being to me like an overall weird movie with very little rewatchability for me. And if you guys are familiar with my videos, you know a lack of rewatchability is going to crush a movie for me in a franchise ranking. So we'll talk about that more, of course. But Alien 3, yeah, it's directed by David Fincher. And this is actually his feature debut as a director. Of course, you know Fincher probably from Fight Club, movies like Benjamin Button, The Social Network. Funny enough, like Alien 3, when you go back and look at the actual numbers, it had triple the budget from Aliens, which is kind of crazy to think about. And I get it. I mean, there's some cool set pieces here without a doubt. There's a lot going on, but still, that's like pretty damn surprising. But maybe that goes back to like a new director not really knowing what he's doing, maybe stretching things in ways he shouldn't have. I don't know. But, I always like it when they pick up the story right after a previous movie, especially when the previous movie's very good. But still, in this movie, so they pick up the story. Ripley gets, her escape pod gets discovered. It's kind of just like, oh, by the way, you remember Hicks and Newt? Those characters we put so much time into in Aliens? Oh yeah, they're dead. But it's just like, all right, that's kind of a lame way to start off this movie, but cool guys. But they implement this like POV kind of thing from the aliens' perspective as it's going through the tunnels, chasing the different people. Because of course, like Ripley has crash landed, her luck on this like maximum security prison planet that's sort of been abandoned, and the only people left are like these celibate fucking lunatics. So when it's chasing them, those shots are cool. The blood and guts, the kills, when it's killing these inmates is kind of cool too. I have a good time with that at times. There are also a few, I guess you could say, bright spots in this cast. Definitely. I mean, Charles Dance, legend. Weird moment between him and Ripley though, when Ripley's just kind of like, hey, it's been a while. So you want to bang? And Charles Dance is like, that's pretty forward, but sure, let's do it. I will say though, like when we're talking about the cast though, to me, this is the worst Ripley in the franchise by a mile. A character so beloved in the genre, a character that I love, and not utilized in a good way at all. They almost make Ripley in this movie, in Alien 3, unlikable, which is also kind of weird. But yeah, Alien 3, for me, it's just kind of boring. The kills are not enough to make up for the lack of other things going on in the movie. So yeah, Rotten Tomatoes has Alien 3 number 7. I disagree. I have Alien 3 last in the franchise at number 9. All right, up next at number 6 is going to be Alien Resurrection from 1997 with a 55% tomato meter score and a 39% audience score. So the critics' consensus goes, while Sigourney Weaver's feral performance as a resurrected Ripley restores some fun to the Alien franchise, the acid blood running through this fourth entry's veins corrodes whatever emotional investment audiences had left. And I can agree with that. I mean, it feels like they're reaching for straws with this movie. There's some fun things in this movie, definitely, but specifically like with Ripley's character, feels very forced that she's even back in the movie. I mean, we've got like this these military scientists who have essentially created this clone of Ripley. Okay, cool, we've got Ripley back, but it doesn't even feel like Ripley. And yeah, I mean, at least on the outside, Ripley's back in the franchise. This looks like Ripley, but in the inside, there's really nothing there that reminds you of Ripley. It's not the same personality. It just doesn't even feel like the same character. So to me, it's kind of like, what's the point? So this movie takes place 200 years after the events of Alien 3. So they don't even bother to pick up right after Alien 3. They're just like, all right, we're going to leap way ahead and go off and do something kind of crazy in some ways, right? But like I said, there are some, there's some pretty fun things in this movie. There's some pretty good kills, like that kill when the alien eventually does get out and then uses the cryo button on one of the soldiers. It's like, payback, bitch. That's a fun kill. The liquid nitrogen freezes the dude and then he tries to move and it rips off his arm. That's fun. There's another kill too where there's a chest burst scene. It bursts out of one of the guy's chests and through the head of another person that he's kind of hanging onto. That's a cool kill as well. But also when I think about that whole liquid nitrogen scene and just the aliens getting out in general, it's like, okay, what was your plan here, guys? So you had no plan for acid blood whatsoever. Also, your entire plan, if the aliens got out, was just to abandon the ship completely. Okay, great idea, guys. And then also we get things in this movie that are not a twist unique to this franchise or interesting at all. Like we've got Winona Ryder's character in this movie, right? What's the big twist, guys? Wow, she's a synthetic. Never would have guessed that. That is mind-blowing. By the way, I'm pretty sure the Queen would disagree with this perfect organism thing because that birthing process looks painful as hell. I can't lie. But also in this movie, I mean, they do a pretty good job creating the whole nest area. I like that. I think that's cool. This movie is also like pretty damn gory at the end of the movie. So there are some things to like about this movie. But yeah, do I agree with Rotten Tomatoes having Resurrection number 6 in the franchise? No, I don't. I disagree. I actually have Resurrection at number 8 in the franchise. Okay, up next at number 5 is going to be Alien Covenant from 2017, coming in fresh at 65% in the tomato meter score and a 55% audience score. The critic consensus for Covenant goes, Alien Covenant delivers another satisfying round of close quarters deep space terror, even if it doesn't take the saga in any new directions. I mean, I think it takes some new directions, it takes some swings, it tries to do some things, without a doubt. So yeah, Alien Covenant. So Ridley Scott is back again, kind of to continue what he started with Prometheus, that whole story. This takes place 11 years after the events in Prometheus. And this movie right away, this is something that Ridley does an incredible job of in this modern era, is just these incredible shots when they land on this planet, when the ship is going through the orbit, everything with that. These big wide shots are really fun to look at. I mean, especially in the movie theater. I remember seeing this in the theater and I was like, this looks incredible. So if you don't like this movie, that's one thing I have a hard time seeing people not like, is that stuff. But yeah, I mean, there are some things in this movie that are very frustrating though. I mean, there's a moment where the guy is clearly very sick. Shit is going down. He has contracted something on this planet. Of course, they take him back to the ship. I get it. There's a lot of stress going on. Everything's happening. And then the chest burster scene happens. And yeah, I mean, the CGI and all that, very questionable for a movie that looks this good. But that whole sequence, when the chest burster scene happens with the security guy, is one of the most frustrating moments actually in the entire franchise to me. It's like, okay, you're not even really fighting back against this thing at all. And then also, like when this thing goes off on the loose, it's like, Maggie, what the fuck are you doing? You're just blasting this thing and shooting the entire ship in the process? This is the type of person they chose to go on this mission? Somebody in a high-stress situation who makes dumb decisions like this, which, of course, ends up getting her killed, ruins the ship, and just causes all kinds of problems for everybody. Great job, Maggie. Thanks a lot for that. Definitely a moment where I was like, that's pretty lame. Also, to piggyback off kind of what I said earlier, I wish there was more of an attempt to do more things practical with the aliens in this. They did do some things practical with some CGI layered on top, definitely, but still, for a movie, like I said, that looks this good, that's a bit annoying to me without a doubt. I do have some issues also with the casting in this movie. I don't think it's as good as Prometheus in some ways. Like, for example, Danny McBride's character, who I'm a fan of. He does some funny work, has some good movies, some good shows, but he's pretty terrible in this. But I do think Michael Fassbender back again and playing David in this movie is a really good villain. I think Michael Fassbender just does a great job in this franchise just in general. But yeah, David's a creepy, eerie character. And also that scene when Daniel's fighting the xenomorph as they're trying to take away off this planet and get away. That's a lot of fun. All the sequences with that, the shots with that, as it's like people are almost falling off and they're trying to kill the xenomorph. That's a cool action sequence, I cannot lie. But really with Covenant, there's a lot of things in this movie that make me feel like it's not a really fully fleshed out, original, unique story for a movie made for such a high budget with so many people involved in it. It's like, okay, guys, what are we gonna come up with, right? Oh, there's a rogue signal on a planet that's gonna lure us in. Let's go check it out, okay? They land on the planet, and guess what? Who is there waiting for you? A story we, maybe have seen before, right? So, I don't know, that's always a little weird though. But there are also some fun kills in this movie, like a little cock blocking scene towards the end of the movie in the shower, where the guy gets the old traditional kill through the back of the head. That's a good time, reminds you of the roots of this franchise, which is fun. But again, like this movie, a very entertaining movie in a lot of ways. Like I already mentioned, great visuals. I've been a little harsh on this movie just talking about it, but this is still to me an interesting journey to a new planet that I find myself really interested in seeing just what it looks like, what's going on, what's the environment like. And of course, we get that whole aspect of like, wait, why is it so quiet? Why have we never heard any birds or any real wildlife? That's weird. I want to learn more about that. And there's a lot of eerie moments with that, where there's tension without not a lot going on because something just feels off. And it feels like you just can't trust really anything you're seeing on screen, which kind of plays out throughout the rest of the movie. So yeah, Rotten Tomatoes has Alien Covenant number 5 in the franchise. I actually agree. I also have it number 5 in the franchise. Okay, guys, up next at number 4 is going to be Prometheus, released in 2012 with a 73% tomato meter score and a 68% audience score. The critics' consensus goes, Ridley Scott's ambitious quasi-prequel to Alien may not answer all of its big questions, but it's redeemed by its haunting visual grandeur and compelling performances, particularly Michael Fassbender as a fastidious android. Yeah, Michael Fassbender's great in this, just like he is in the Covenant we just talked about as well. And yeah, the visual grandeur, the haunting visuals in this movie, amazing, which we'll talk about more in just a second. So yeah, Prometheus is the official return of Ridley Scott to the franchise 33 years after Alien. And technically, Prometheus takes place 30 years before Alien. And it's this story about like these ancient artifacts that have been found all over the place in different locations and lead to one particular place, which might be where kind of the creation of man started. Which to me is a pretty dope storyline. Like, I'm on board for that. I'm open to explore that. Like, if I saw that on a script and didn't see the movie, I'd be like, okay, that's something interesting. That's something like I'd be down to go and check out, especially from Ridley Scott. Are you kidding me? And I mean, that's probably a big reason why they were able to lure in a lot of the people for the cast that they were. Ridley Scott, a kind of crazy, intricate storyline with a huge budget. They're probably going to be down for that. So yeah. It's a stacked cast, really. I mean, this movie's got a great cast. Michael Fassbender, I already mentioned him. He's great. You also have Charlize Theron in this movie as well. Guy Pearce, Idris Elba. But really, one of the downfalls with the cast in this movie for me is like, I feel like Ridley doesn't really make you root for anyone in this movie. I know he tries, but I don't find myself really rooting for anybody except for maybe Elizabeth. And that really doesn't even happen until towards the end of the movie. But yeah, like I already mentioned with the other movie, I mean, the expansiveness of this movie, the look of it, it's just gorgeous. Like anytime they zoom out on this world or where the ship's going or in space, you're just like, holy shit, this looks incredible, in my opinion, which also is a little weird when we then get introduced to Peter Wayland and his makeup looks like complete dog shit. To me, that always throws me off, similar to something we'll mention in Alien Romulus as well, which I'll talk about obviously here shortly. Yeah, something Ridley Scott also tries to do, I don't know if it's pride trying to come up with new things, but it's like, hey man, like you kind of created this franchise in some ways. Like some of the stuff you would be like tipping your cap to and reusing is shit that you kind of created. So just reuse it. He does kind of try to make up his own aliens and some of his own creatures and stuff. And sometimes they look stupid. Sometimes they look like, cheap knockoffs of xenomorphs and other things like that. But there are some fun little things in here, like these little cobra things that you see in this. We also get that fun kill from it where like the guy gets his helmet mask or his glass just shattered and it melts into his face, which is crazy. And then the other dude gets the wormy kind of a thing that crawls up in his suit and into his mouth. That's pretty gnarly. And I also think, and I know a lot of people feel this way, this movie is a little overly complicated for like your general movie going audience. I mean, anytime you have to use like these weird holographic things to show what these people, almost like an instant replay to show even what the hell is going on or where we are or what's happening, that's always a little bit concerning that you have to break it down like that. It might indicate that the movie is a little bit complicated, more complicated than maybe it should be. There are some just wild scenes in this movie, like the entire C-section scene. I mean, that's a lot of C-section scene. That's a holy shit moment. You're like, okay, this is crazy. This is graphic. This is a lot going on here. I will say, I mean, like towards the end, Charlize Theron, her death at the end, that's a little silly. It's like, come on, just roll out of the way. Why are you running in a straight line? And I know that's a trope we've seen in a billion horror movies, but still, come on. When all is said and done with Prometheus, one of the biggest things to me with this movie, when I think back on it, when the credits roll, I just think to myself, it's a pretty damn good time. Yeah, it gets a little weird at times, but I like the underlying story to it. I like this idea of discovering, where mankind was potentially created and the bad shit that happens when you're trying to go after something that deep. I like that. I dig it. So do I agree with Prometheus being number 4 in the franchise? No, I disagree. I actually have Prometheus at number 3 because, like I said, I just have a fun time with this movie. All right, hold on to your butts because we are moving into the top 3. Up next at number 3 is going to be Alien Romulus, certified fresh at 81% and the tomato meter score with an 86% audience score. The critics' consensus for Romulus goes, honoring its nightmarish predecessors while chest bursting at the seams with new frights of its own. Romulus injects some fresh acid blood into one of cinema's great horror franchises. Yeah, and it's definitely a good entry in the franchise, without a doubt. A very entertaining movie, some good action, kind of pulls a lot of things from Alien and Aliens. Of course, Romulus takes place in between Alien and Aliens. But, okay, so this movie just came out. I've seen it twice. I saw it once at a normal, just an average theater, and I saw it the second time in IMAX. Incredible in IMAX. The visuals in this movie are amazing. The grit and grime of this world, the mining colony that we start off of in the world is cool and something I'm interested in. I want to learn more about that backstory and more about the character's backstory. But I will say, I was really high on this movie the first time I saw it, and the second time I noticed more of the recycled content. I definitely noticed more of the bad decisions from the characters because, let's be honest, really the only character you kind of root for, especially towards the end of the movie, is Andy, the synthetic. Hopefully I got his name right, but he is the only one, for the most part, making decent decisions throughout this movie. And yeah, like, he's a synthetic, so he makes very calculated decisions without emotion. But in this movie in particular, they end up being usually the best decisions. Like the moment when the pregnant girl is about to get killed by the xenomorph and he decides, hey, I'm not going to unlock the door, you dipshits, because it will kill all of us. Why is that a bad idea? And everybody freaks out. Even Rain freaks out, slaps him, gets pissed, wants to take out his chip again. And it's like, I'm sitting there as an audience member like, what do you mean? It's clearly the right decision. And that happens several times throughout the movie. Speaking of Rain, the actress that plays Rain, very good. She is really, really good. Kaylee Spaney, I think her name is. Great. I saw her in Civil War. Looking forward to seeing her in more projects in the future. I will definitely seek out projects that she's in. She's great. Very different than Ripley in a lot of ways, but still like a strong badass. No doubt. She's really good. But one of my gripes, for sure, with Rain's character is she really doesn't really become great until the end of the movie, to me. And I guess you could say that's her character evolving, through what she's going through. She's becoming something new. And then maybe if they come out with a sequel, she's going to be badass from here on out. But yeah, she really shines at the end of the movie when everybody is essentially gone and she's on her own. For me, really, the rewatchability with Romulus comes down to just wanting to be back in this world because everything looks great. The ships are worn and gritty, which is exactly what I wanted with a movie, especially a movie set in between Alien and Aliens. Yeah, like the squeaky clean, bright kind of a vibe you get from Prometheus, Covenant, and whatever. That's fun, but I prefer the grit and grime of Alien, Aliens, Romulus, stuff like that. Love that. So that was a good aspect to it. Yes, I mean, of course, one of the gripes with Romulus is the recycled content. I already mentioned that a little bit. And yeah, get away from her, you bitch. I mean, everybody in the audience was kind of laughing. I don't know if they're laughing out of pity or because it was great. I don't know. I hated that personally. Just felt like that was way too corny, way too on the nose. Of course, the stuff at the end of the movie where it's like, okay, now we've got a xenomorph human kind of mixture, clearly taken from another movie in this franchise. Like I said, the second watch through, I noticed so many things recycled. But regardless, the look of this movie, the feel of this movie, despite the terrible character decisions and the forgettable characters, still just being in this world is a really damn good time. The sound design is amazing. The action at the end, the scene where Rain is just mowing down the xenomorphs, the elevator scene, the scene at the end where she's trying to kill this human xenomorph creature. Like that action, the sound and the visuals, I mean, especially on a big scene, a big screen, holy shit, it's a great time. So yeah, a very flawed movie, a very divisive movie, without a doubt. Actually kind of surprised by the divisiveness on Romulus in some ways, but I get it. The Alien franchise, people who are fans of the franchise are passionate. So do I agree with Alien Romulus being number 3 in the franchise according to Rotten Tomatoes? I actually disagree. I have Alien Romulus number 4 in the franchise for me. So there you go. Rotten Tomatoes has Romulus number 3. All right, and here is where things really start to get interesting because to me, Alien and Aliens are by far the best movies in this franchise. And I know that's not really a hot take. A lot of you out there watching right now are probably thinking the exact same thing. But all right, which movie does Rotten Tomatoes have at number 2 in the franchise? Well, coming in at number 2 is going to be Alien from 1979. Certified fresh with a 93% tomato meter score and a 94% audience score. The critics' consensus for Alien goes, a modern classic. Alien blends science fiction, horror, and bleak poetry into a seamless whole. Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty good way to put it. I can't lie. But Alien, of course, one of the best science fiction movies ever made, one of the greatest horror movies ever made. One of the most shocking moments in horror history, especially in 1979. The chest burster scene, still iconic to this day. Of course, introduced us to Ripley as a character. In my opinion, one of the greatest, you could say Final Girls, just one of the greatest characters. Doesn't even matter, male or female. One of the greatest characters in horror history. And to me, just in movie history, just in general. Just a badass. And in this movie is great. You know, of course, movies that are first in the franchise have the element of surprise. So Alien will always have that. Yeah, I mean, to me, Alien is one of those movies that is so cozy. And Fede Alvarez with Romulus did a great job replicating some of the quietness from Alien, but yeah, just the quietness from Alien, the eeriness. The movie starts off so quiet, showing these still shots of the ship and other things. And the ship, the grit and grime is incredible. It is my style in a science fiction movie. And then you get introduced to this cast, these characters, you know, that are so blue collar. A lot of them don't want to be here. You know, they just got out of hyper sleep. They're smoking cigs. They're drinking coffee. They're trying to just get this job done. And it's like, damn it. Are you kidding me? There's some rogue signal. Now we have to go after and look and see what's going on. It's like, damn it. I just want to get home. And then everything unfolds from there. Of course, you know what I mean? The face hugger scene. The iconic scene with the egg opening up with the mist. Incredible. And of course, like Ash, the synthetic in this movie. One of those things where you get caught off guard the first time you watch Alien. It's a surprise. You're like, holy shit. Yes, going back, you notice some of the red flags, but a great surprise. One of the many. And right off the bat in Alien, you get this sense of distrust. It's like, oh, you can't trust what you're seeing on screen. Oh, it's just an average signal, you know, a distress signal maybe or whatever. Nope, definitely not. Ash, he's just a member of the crew. Nope, definitely not. At the very end of the movie, Ripley, you're safe. You can go into sleep, hypersleep, and you'll be good. Nope, the xenomorph is there. But yeah, I mean, Alien, what else is there to say that hasn't been said? One of my favorite horror movies ever made. The rewatchability for Alien for me, I already kind of touched on this, really goes back to the coziness of this movie, the vibe, the atmosphere in this movie, which is what I love. I love this late 70s era for horror and also just sci-fi. So yeah, Alien, incredible movie. Of course, iconic, classic. So do I agree with Alien being number 2, according to Rotten Tomatoes? Well, Aliens and Alien are very interchangeable. They're both iconic. They're both amazing. But I would disagree. Yeah, the rewatchability for me for Alien is a little higher than Aliens. So I actually have Alien number 1 in the franchise because it's a movie I can always put on and just get a feeling from it, no matter what. And I love that. So there you go. Alien coming in at number 2. So obviously, that means that number 1 is going to be Aliens, Jim Cameron's Aliens from 1986. Certified fresh. You're probably wondering, okay, how much higher is Aliens though? Well, barely. Barely. Aliens coming in 94%. So Alien 93, Aliens 94% the tomato meter score, and the same audience score at 94% as well. So, you know, just like most of us feel, these movies are very neck and neck, depending on your mood and other things like that. Both of them are iconic. I mean, what a way to follow up such a classic movie. I mean, that's huge shoes to fill. Usually, productions fail when they're following up a massive success that's very iconic. But Cameron was able to just put his own touch on this franchise. But before we get into all that, let's talk about the critics' consensus. It goes like this. While Alien was a marvel of slow-building atmospheric tension, Aliens packs a much more visceral punch and features a typically strong performance from Sigourney Weaver. Yeah, I mean, definitely builds upon a lot of what we see, packs a huge punch. A lot of people say, you know, Aliens is like the action movie, Alien is the more horror movie, but I actually kind of disagree with that a little bit, and I'll talk about that in a second. But you know what we like to do with movies that are number 1? We got to read a couple critic reviews. So the first critic said Aliens was fresh, gave it a 3.5 out of 4, and said Cameron is a master of machinery and weaponry, a technical wizard who replaces Scott's refinement with his own kind of muscularity. But with either film, you leave the theater drained, physically exhausted, well rewarded for all of your suffering. Yeah, I mean, it's a ride, you know, and I also feel this way about Romulus too, but in Aliens, definitely there's this just build and build and build up and build up and build up and tension, and then like a huge release at the end of the movie, which is great. Like I said, also happens in Romulus as Rain's ship we pan up and she takes off, almost hitting the belt. And in Aliens, very similar, of course, but done even better. Definitely. So the next critic says Aliens was rotten. They had the balls to say this movie wasn't good. They gave it a 2 out of 4 and said Aliens, they said, some people have praised the technical excellence of Aliens. Well, the Eiffel Tower is technically impressive, but I wouldn't want to watch it fall apart on people for 2 hours. I mean, that might be kind of fun if it's in a movie. That might be kind of a cool experience. I mean, hell, I might be down for that if it's done with the right director or something like that. No, but really though, I get it. And one of the gripes with Aliens, I feel this way a little bit, is the runtime of Aliens. Made me think about that because he said 2 hours. Aliens is a little long, I would say. I think there's about, when I go back and watch it, I am reminded like, oh, okay, this movie's actually longer than I thought. But still, I mean, the movie's a classic without a doubt. Yeah, I mean, so Ripley, of course, she's evolving, right? She's evolving. We're seeing like a motherly side to her. She discovers Newt, this kid, on the planet, the last one alive, this kid who's resilient. And now Ripley kind of takes her under her wing and takes care of her. Of course, in Alien 3, they're just like, yeah, she's fucking dead. Thanks, guys. But still. And yeah, with Aliens, we get introduced to this whole aspect of it's a little bit inspired by the Vietnam War. You've got these Marines, and the banter between the Marines is amazing. Hell of a good time. We get more xenomorphs in this movie too. It's just, a ton of action, ton of killing, aliens all over the fucking place, destroying things blowing up, big set pieces, and just incredible. It's crazy to think what Cameron was able to do on the budget that he had to make this movie feel, not a small budget by any means, but still was able to make this movie just feel massive. And this is one of the greatest blockbuster movies, summer movies you could put on without a doubt, and just have like that big blockbuster experience. But yeah, I mean, the real get away from her bitch line at the end of the movie with Ripley tying in the fact that she's working on she's working with loaders in the beginning of the movie, tying that in later in the movie. Love that. That's incredible. The cast from top to bottom in this movie, so damn good. I mean, what else could you say about Aliens? One of the greatest horror movies ever made. Oh, speaking of horror, like I mentioned a second ago, I think Aliens is more of a horror movie than people give it credit for. A lot of people just say it's an action movie, but I mean, the first half of the movie, there's very little action, especially that sequence where they're going through the tunnels and they're kind of seeing where the different humans are, cocooned. Like that definitely has a lot of horror elements to it, and they eventually find one of the humans that's still alive with a big jump scare. That's like a scary ass scene. Regardless, Aliens, what a classic, what a great movie. So much fun. So like I already said, yeah, I have Aliens at number 2 in the franchise, but I mean, if you have it number 1, what am I going to say? Like, they're both just instant classics, and what a way to follow up an iconic movie as well. So, but yeah, anyways, everybody, there you go. Romulus, Alien, and Aliens rounding out the top 3. But thanks for watching my thoughts, my review on how Rotten Tomatoes ranks the entire Alien franchise. Would love to see down below in the comments how you rank this franchise. Do you disagree with how Rotten Tomatoes ranks this franchise? Do you think it was a terrible ranking? Do you think it was great? Let me know down below. Also, let me know down below what other franchises I should rank like this. I have a ton of other videos very similar to this on Friday the 13th, Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street. So if you want to check those out, go ahead and do so. I will put a couple videos right here if you want some more content from me right now. But make sure you subscribe so you don't miss future content. But anyways, everybody, thanks again for watching. My name is Matt. Go ahead and follow me on social media if you care to do so. But I will talk to you all in the next one.